Hopefully you can see my screen already.
Yeah.
The CO2 dashboard, its name is larger, so we're using the CO2 dashboard to make it quicker. Is focusing on two aspects. So it features two tools. The first one is a carbon footprint calculator, which focuses on a personal aspect to help a citizen understand how their daily life, how their activities affect their carbon footprint. And then the second tool focuses, which is the scenario simulator, focuses on more of a community aspect, a policy aspect, but more on that later. Let's take a look at the first tool. So the CO2 calculator is a set of questions that focus on activities of a citizen. And we had the aim of to make the calculator simple. We didn't want to have a lot of complex questions or a lot of difficult ones. Therefore, we tried to base our calculations on average data that we would be able to find. So, and you will see what I mean in a bit. So the first thing you need to do is enter your country. Currently, the countries covered are the ones of the project. And you can also optionally choose the dates, the time period for which you are calculating your carbon footprint. Then we have some general information questions which help us understand a few things and how we can move forward with policymaking, which is mostly focused on the second tool, which we will see later. Of course, these are anonymously viewed. And now we're moving to the actual part of the calculator, which the first tab is vehicles, where the user can add the vehicles they have and how much they travel with them and how much fuel and the type of fuel they consume. Moving on, we have a tab for flights because flying is actually one of the biggest sources of carbon footprint for someone. So again, this is one of the things we try to implement as simple as possible to not have to add a lot of information for a user. So the user just has to choose a number of flights they have flown through a period, and they can use either the duration or the distance of the flight to help them choose. Next, we have the use of trains, and we just need to add a number of trips and an average distance for the trips they had during the period. And then we have the buildings, which is another. The buildings is one of the aspects that also contribute a lot to carbon footprint. And when I say buildings, I mean heating and electricity. So the questions are exactly for that. We ask the user what type of heating they use, how much fuel they use, and their electricity usage. Of course, we factor in the energy efficiency of some of the most energy consuming devices, such as refrigerators, washing machines, etc. And we also have a helpful table that tries to match the changes of energy efficiency labels, because they have changed during the years. And you can see the matching on this table. And finally, we have questions about waste management, which is recycling and composting. Again, since this is hard to track, so we basically provide the average of composting and recycling for the average citizen of the country the user has selected, and also this is translated into 30 liter trash bags. So the user just has to pick whether they are recycling, and if they are recycling, is this amount less, more than average? And the same goes for composting. Then we click calculate and we can move to the results. The results now offer a way to compare our results with various averages. So on the first bar, I see my results. So how much CO2 have I generated from flights, how much from train usage, from buildings. And then since I have chosen Greece as my country, I see the averages from Greece, and I can see where I'm doing better, where I'm doing worse. And of course, the same goes for Europe. And finally, this is a way to compare your results with the average results of the dashboard. So this here helps you compare with other users. Then we have another way to visualize how your carbon footprint is broken down based on these aspects. And finally, we move to the recommendations. These recommendations are personalized. So based on what exactly you have answered, you will receive different results. So since my flights weren't as good, I received some recommendation for this. Same goes for transportation, because my input was 2 cars with a lot of consumption, and for buildings, the same. And clicking on these recommendations will provide some more information, because receiving this recommendation is not enough. You need to get more information on how you can start adopting such a recommendation. And this is where the first tool ends and the second one begins. This was, as I mentioned, the personal aspect. So citizen sees their footprint and how it's affected by their daily activities. Now we can move to the second tool, which is the scenario simulation. And this tries to focus on a communal and policy aspect. So this is, in this one, you actually play, you make scenarios. Scenarios about what? The scenario is that the European Commission wants to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 55% by 2030. But how can we do this? How can this be achieved? So here we see a graph, and here we see a bar that shows some reduction. It's already filled because I have chosen some things here. You will see. So the first line here, the dark one, shows the current state. Current state of what? So this is the average carbon footprint of a European citizen. I think it's currently around 6 tons of CO2 annually. And the goal is for this scenario to reach 3 tons of CO2 annually by 2030. And this, the green line represents the preferable level of reduction from 2022 up to 2050. But our target is here, which is 3 tons of CO2. To do this, we create scenarios. scenarios that are comprised of three types of actions. First, we have citizen actions. Citizen actions mean things a citizen would be willing to do, things they would be interested and willing to adopt. So, for example, when living for a long amount of time, a long period of time from home, will you unplug devices that are not necessary? Will you be willing to make more direct flights than connecting flights? Would you be willing to replace old lights with newer LED ones that consume less energy? Small actions like that. In this scenario, and this means, in your opinion, what you think will happen if the majority of the citizens would adopt this, would be willing to adopt this? And then we have two more tabs that are government and local government actions. These represent larger scale actions, and choosing this means that would you be willing to accept these changes from the government? So doing more wind energy, providing financial assistance for insulation and things like that. And we have local government, which are again larger than citizen actions, but more local. So improving rail service quality, more bike lanes, things like that. And as I mentioned, the goal is 55%. So when we reach our goal, like that, we can save this scenario. Now, what does saving mean? Both data from the first tool and the scenarios from the second tool will be available to policymakers anonymized and in aggregated form for them to see what changes would be more suitable for an area to implement. So, for example, in Greece, in Athens, that I have made my calculation, policymakers may see that some things are worse in some areas, and the citizens want a specific thing to be implemented. So they will be able to do policy changes based on data, based on citizens. And finally, we have also implemented a profile for the users to see their previously submitted calculations and scenarios. They can see what their carbon footprint was when they created a calculation, and they also have access again to the recommendation and the comparisons. And I think I have finished my presentation.